Welcome to today's Global Connections program. I'm Bill Miller. What is the United Nations Association of the United States of America, commonly called UNA-USA? What is UNA-USA doing to help inform people in the United States about the role of the United Nations in promoting peace and stability, enhancing economic and social development, and encouraging human rights? We'll be back in just a moment to talk about these and other important issues. Welcome back to our program. You're watching Global Connections Television, which is an independently produced program. The opinions expressed on Global Connections are solely those of the moderator and his guest. Today we're looking at a very interesting organization called the United Nations Association of the United States of America. My guest is an expert on UNA-USA. My guest today is Ms. Teena Halbig. Ms. Teena Halbig is the president of the Kentucky Division of the United Nations Association of the USA. Ms. Halbig worked for several years in the medical field, both at Jewish Hospital and in research at the University of Louisville before becoming a successful small business owner. Teena Halbig is also past president of the Kentucky League of Women Voters. Teena Halbig, welcome to today's Global Connections program.
Thank you.
I appreciate you being with me. Teena, let's just take it from the top. What is the United Nations Association of the USA? You're part of the UN Foundation that was set up by Ted Turner about 13, 14 years ago, and also the Better World Fund. What exactly is UNA-USA, and how do you interact with the UN Foundation?
Well, the UNA-USA is an advocacy organization, and we talk about the critical and vital issues that are going on with the United Nations, but we are also a program of the UN Foundation. And as you say, that was created by Ted Turner in 1988. I was told that he just sat straight up in bed and he threw his hands up and he said, you know, I'll pay the $1 billion because the United States was in debt and needed to pay. And so he found out he couldn't do that, but instead he created the United Nations Foundation, and they have a wealth of many different programs. The Shot at Life is just one of those many programs.
Mm-hmm. Right. Now, UNA-USA is a membership organization. It's just regular folks like you, me. Full disclosure, we're all members of UNA-USA, but it is one of the largest foreign policy associations in the United States with about 17,000 members, 124 chapters around the country. And you mentioned that you're trying to promote the UN in Congress and to inform the public, but also yes, to do this in an objective fashion, to look at the strengths of the UN and also the weaknesses of the UN. The UN does some things very well, other areas it doesn't do quite as well.
Right.
But
well, when you look at a huge organization with 193 countries mm-hmm, under that and 70 agencies and organizations that they're involved with and the number of people that work for those organizations, mm-hmm, it's hard for everything to go smoothly and perfectly. But we pick out the good things that we want to advocate for.
Mm-hmm. Right, and that's very important to have that objective lens on the UN, mm-hmm, and the UN mm-hmm, has improved. There's no doubt about it. When Kofi Annan, the former Secretary General of the UN, came in with his two-track approach to improving the internal and external efficiency of the UN, that went a long way to improving the UN to make it more efficient, more effective. And also Ban Ki-moon, current Secretary mm-hmm, General of the UN, has certainly carried those reforms forward and implemented many of his own. Well, let's talk a little bit about the UN. We look at it today, but when we think back to 1945, the UN came out of the ashes of World War II. Europe lay in ruins. Parts of Asia had been destroyed. Over 60 million people had died. When the delegates got off the plane in San Francisco and mobilized, there were basically 50 countries at that time. The African yes, countries and many of the Asian countries were still under the colonial rule mm-hmm, of the British, the French, and other groups. But when they came together to set up the United Nations, they realized that they had to create an organization that would really help prevent World War III, because they saw the devastation of World War II and certainly World War I. But it's critical to see how important that act was on June 26, 1945, when the UN was set up in San Francisco.
It was, and also I wanted to mention that UNA USA, we are just one organization in the United States, but there is the World Federation of UNA USA, of which we are a member, in addition to other countries like Bolivia and Singapore and other places. So it is much broader and much bigger.
Exactly, right. And our viewers, if they'd like more information on UNA USA, they can go to www.unausa.org. If they want anything on the World Federation of the UNA, they can go to wafuna.org and get more information.
Yes.
Well, we've got an animated overview. The UN I was talking about in 1945 is not the UN of today. It's totally different, but the same concept is there to promote world peace, to promote and enhance economic and social development, and to encourage human rights. We've got this animated video that'll run about 2 minutes or a little less of what the UN is about. Let's go to that, and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Thanks.
Imagine a world without peace. I'm talking about defending democracy and the right to vote. It looks like they can vote now too. Sweet! Who's building schools for girls and wells for clean water and ensuring homes have power? It's the UN, and it's kind of a big deal. Remember how annoying getting shots was as a kid? Yeah, turns out they saved our lives. They're keeping children all around the world healthy too. I'm talking big numbers. Because of the UN, 1 billion children in 60 countries have been vaccinated. And the UN's there when natural disasters occur, like the earthquake in Haiti. The UN helps rebuild from the unthinkable, providing things like food, shelter, and solar lights to keep people safe. It really is that cool. I can't make this stuff up. The UN, it's not a bunch of people in suits just talking to each other. It's working with developing nations and ensuring free elections. It's aid to refugees and maintaining peace and security. It's nearly 200 countries based right here in the US, working across the entire world. It's you, it's me, it's my world, my UN. Join the conversation with youth around the country and tell us what the UN means to you. Visit betterworldcampaign.org/myworldmyun.
Teena, I think that gives us an idea, a sort of an encapsulated idea of some of the things the UN is involved in. If you have a humanitarian disaster, or if there's peacekeeping that needs to be done, or what have you, we've got right now about 16 UN peacekeeping missions. Peacekeeping was not even part of the UN Charter in 1945, but it's a critical role that's being played today in peacekeeping. So the UN has changed, and because the countries of the world wanted to and needed to.
Yes, and one of the things they did too was to come up with, in 2000, with the 8 Millennium Development Goals. And that was the first framework for the entire, at that time it was 189 countries, but for the entire body to decide on things to focus on, such as poverty and maternal health and vaccinations and development and environmental sustainability, and the list goes on to the 8. And we work on those Millennium Development Goals that were set, and when those end in 2015, then My World will begin. And if anybody just Googles My World, they will find it. And it is a worldwide poll that is going on right now that you can participate in.
And as I recall, myworld2015.org
yes.
was at the end of that animated video we just saw. So
Yes,
that
it
is
is
a good way to check on it. Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the other programs that the UN Foundation has and UNA USA is involved in. Now, you're involved in the Shot at Life program. What exactly is the Shot at Life?
Well, Shot at Life began in 2012. And I didn't go to the first training they had, but I applied for the second training, and it was in Washington, D.C. over a few days. They had wonderful experts come in and talk. They provided much material and everything. But basically it has to do with the main program is to eradicate the four. The four of them are the main focus. And they will they have worked very hard on polio, much as Rotary International has worked on, and we're down to 1% remaining, but that 1% is critical because every 20 seconds a child dies from a vaccine preventable disease, and most of those are children that don't live to be 5 years old. So it's very important that we vaccinate so that children everywhere will be safe, because children are not safe, as we all are not, unless everybody is able to be vaccinated, and that we can have this victory of, like we have with smallpox, to have it eradicated. Unfortunately, recently there have been a few cases in Syria, as well as Pakistan. Is the main pockets are Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Nigeria. But Pakistan has had 39 cases now. Very recently, they had 2 13-month-olds and 1 10-month-old with flaccid paralysis. So no one is safe anywhere until everybody is vaccinated.
And that's been the challenge with the Polio Plus program, with Rotary International, the UN Children's Fund, the UN World Health Organization, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. But you have to eliminate that last viral strain of polio, or it will come back. Well, we're talking about a shot at life, and you brought a little video. Got some really moving vignettes of these children being immunized. Let's go to those, watch them for a few minutes, and we'll come back and talk about it.
Thank you.
Uganda, located in East Africa, is also known as the Pearl of Africa. Hours west of the capital city, in the rural districts of Mubende and Kabarole, we visited family health days to see the work that UNICEF is doing with the Ministry of Health to provide comprehensive health services like immunizations. Spending time with Ugandan mothers, one thing remains clear: motherhood is universal. We heard again and again from mothers that their greatest desire is to have healthy children who can then get a good education and pursue their dreams. Vaccines level the playing field so that all our children, no matter where they live, have that shot at a healthy life.
Teena, those shots are really very graphic. They're very moving. They're very compelling. They make you want to watch them, and they also make you want to participate in this program and to get involved. How can people, folks who are watching the show, say, okay, I'm in India or I'm in wherever it could be, how can they participate in the Shot at Life program?
They can actually apply and go to unfoundation.org or just Google Shot at Life and can apply. Many people who were there for training were doctors, nurses, medical technologists like myself, but there were also moms and dads and young adults. One of the people that was there was Elizabeth Gore McKee, and the daughter of Tipper and Al Gore, and she is very much for this program. The Gates Foundation has done a tremendous amount and donated an overwhelming amount of funds. Back in 1998, the Gateses had scientists come to their homes, and shortly thereafter they donated $750 million, and now they're donating even billions of dollars. It's astronomical because Bill Gates is very passionate about this issue and believes that this has to be eradicated.
That's very important. And we're talking about these programs, we're talking about the United Nations. And as I mentioned before, the UN does some things very well, extremely important programs. Others, they need to improve. They need to improve their efficiencies. But it's equally as important for us to learn more about what the UN does and these international issues and how they impact us. We think that things that occur overseas won't impact us, but it's hard to really learn about these programs unless people go to the unausa.org website. Another great source is the unfoundation.org.
Yes.
They can go in and sign up for this electronic newsletter free of charge that will come to your email inbox 5 days a week that will have a listing of some recent articles on programs, projects we're talking about today. And it's very important people sign up because the media do not cover, and the media will be the first to say this, they don't cover the UN very well. They cover the Security Council, peacekeeping, and forget to some degree the other 80% of the UN that is involved in stuff we're talking about today.
Right, and if people want to join UNAUSA, you can just go to unausa.org/join, and right now there are free student memberships for anybody up to 22 years old. So you just go to unausa.org/student membership, and you can join for free if you're a student. And you will receive the World Bulletin, you will get the Interdependent magazine, you will be talking with experts on the phone in conference calls. There are just, if you want to know what's going on in the world, you're going to find out when you're involved in this.
It is a great resource, it certainly is. Well, now the UN Foundation has other programs too. Let's just briefly talk about a few of them. One is Nothing But Nets. What exactly is that?
The Nothing But Nets is a program that is trying to defeat malaria, because every 60 seconds a child in Africa dies from malaria. These are actually bed nets that you drape over the bed. A family of 4 can sleep inside of one. The insecticide that's in it lasts about 4 years. The problem now is that 6 million nets have been delivered over time, but those nets are getting holes in them, they're getting rips, they're getting cuts, and the mosquitoes can get inside. Before, when the insecticide was working well, if a mosquito landed on the net, then it could actually die and not even go on to bite another person that didn't have a net. So it's really important to, try to address this, and it's like for $10, it's send $10 and give a net, save a life.
Save a life. It's very right. And the National Basketball Association, the NBA, given its nets, and they have nets they put basketballs in, they have participated in this. Another program is Girl Up. How does that tie into the 3rd Millennium Development Goal to empower women?
Well, Girl Up is Give Me 5, and that's Give Me $5. And what that does is the money goes to buy pencils and paper and pens and things like this, so that girls and women can be educated, and so there are tools to help educate women to help bring them out of poverty.
Which is very important. Women play a critical role, and if you can help younger women, girls, teenagers or whatever, that's even more important. Well, the United Nations Association of the USA is, as I mentioned before, one of the largest nonpartisan foreign policy associations in the United States. You have very prominent Democrats, Republicans, and independents who are leaders of UNAUSA, and they focus on trying to help people better understand the United Nations. And one thing that you do at the state level is to have programs. I know you do a UN Day program on or around October 24th on UN Day. You also do something on Human Rights Day, December 10th. Generally, basically, who are some of the, not all the participants, but like you get the governor to issue a proclamation,
Yes.
governor of Kentucky, how does that?
Yes, the governor will issue a proclamation that we have delivered so that people will know all about that issue. And we also try to have speakers on various topics like human trafficking and just things related to, especially right now we're focusing on Millennium Development Goal number 3 to empower women and gender equity because the Louisville chapter is looking at holding a 2015 Women's Summit.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And as we look at the United Nations and these various programs, we see that the UN Foundation and other groups too do polls about every 6 months. They did a poll recently on support for the United Nations, which really shot up. It's been
Yes.
going up quite dramatically over the past 2 or 3, 4 years, but it really took off. What are a couple of the statistics?
Right, it was really terrific right before United Nations Day this year, October 24th, right beforehand, we got the news that the Better World Campaign Fund had done a poll, and 88% of the American public believes that the United States should be involved in the United Nations, and that's wonderful. Also, it was terrific, overwhelming that 92% felt that there needed to be maternal and childhood vaccinations. So that was really terrific. And I didn't mention earlier, but with the Shot at Life campaign, the partners that they have are Gavi, the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunizations, the WHO, World Health Organization, and I always forget the third one, UNICEF. I'm
UNICEF,
sorry.
UN Children's.
UNICEF.
There's so many
right.
alphabet
UN
soup agencies out there,
right.
we can't keep up
And then
with
there
them.
are other agencies that,
Right.
that have their own programs like the Center for Disease Control and USAID.
Exactly. And as I recall, these from that poll, too, we were talking about a few minutes ago, that the favorability rating of the United Nations has gone up from 60% when this poll was taken 6 months ago to 70% today, which is still quite an increase. But it is very important that we learn more about the United Nations. As Madeleine Albright,
Yes.
former Secretary of State, said, the UN is not perfect, but it's indispensable, and we need to learn much more about it and to actively participate in helping to set the agenda whenever possible. But Teena Halbig, President of the Kentucky Division of the United Nations Association of the USA, I want to thank you so much for a
Thank you.
very interesting and a very informative program.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm Bill Miller. Thank you for joining us on today's Global Connections program.